Let me start with something most people don't realize. When men or women struggle with intimate health issues, it's rarely just about age, stress, or what's happening in the moment. In most cases, it's the body sending warning signals long before the problem becomes obvious. If you understand those signals, you can fix the root cause instead of just masking the symptoms. Here's the big picture. Intimate health in both men and women is deeply connected to the nervous system, hormones, blood flow, and nutrition. When any one of these is off, performance, desire, and confidence start to decline. And this doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process that often starts years earlier. Let's talk about energy first, because low energy is one of the earliest signs. When the body is constantly tired, it automatically prioritizes survival over reproduction. That means your body diverts resources away from hormones and circulation that support intimate health. Poor sleep, chronic stress, and blood sugar problems all drain energy at a cellular level. Over time, this creates weakness, reduced responsiveness, and lower interest for both men and women. Now let's look at circulation. Healthy blood flow is essential. If circulation is poor, tissues don't receive enough oxygen and nutrients. In men, this can show up as reduced firmness or endurance. In women, it may show up as discomfort, dryness, or reduced sensation. One of the biggest causes of poor circulation today is insulin resistance. High sugar and refined carbohydrates damage blood vessels and interfere with nitric oxide, which is critical for proper blood flow. Hormones are another major piece. Testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone don't just affect desire, they affect mood, motivation, muscle tone, and confidence. Chronic stress raises cortisol, and cortisol directly blocks the production of these hormones. This is why people under constant stress often experience both emotional and physical changes in intimate health. It's not psychological weakness, it's biochemistry. Nutrition plays a much bigger role than most people think. Zinc, magnesium, B vitamins, vitamin D, and healthy fats are essential for hormone production and nerve signaling. When someone eats a diet high in processed foods and low in minerals, the body simply doesn't have the building blocks it needs. Over time, this leads to weakness, slower response, and reduced resilience. Another overlooked factor is inflammation. Inflammation damages nerves and blood vessels. It also interferes with hormone receptors, meaning even if hormones are present, the body can't use them effectively. In both men and women, chronic inflammation often comes from poor gut health, food sensitivities, and constant exposure to refined oils and sugars. Let's also talk about the nervous system. Intimate response is controlled by the parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for relaxation and recovery. If someone is always in fight or flight mode, the body literally cannot switch into the state needed for proper function. This is why relaxation, breathing, and recovery are not optional. They're essential. Here's the encouraging part. These issues are not permanent. When you improve sleep, stabilize blood sugar, reduce stress, support the gut, and correct nutrient deficiencies, the body often responds naturally. You're not forcing anything. You're removing the obstacles that were blocking normal function in the first place. So if you or someone you know is dealing with these challenges, don't think of it as a failure. Think of it as feedback. The body is asking for support, balance, and better fuel. When you address the root causes, strength, confidence, and function often return as a natural side effect of better health. If you found this helpful, make sure to take care of the basics first. Fix what's happening inside, and the outside usually follows. Most people think hormone problems just happen with age, but that's not how it works. Hormone imbalance is usually the result of years of small stresses adding up. Stress, poor sleep, and missing nutrients quietly push the body off balance long before noticeable problems appear. By the time symptoms show up, the issue has often been developing for a long time. Let's start with stress because this is one of the biggest hormone disruptors for both men and women. When you're under constant stress, your body produces more cortisol. Cortisol is a survival hormone. It's meant to help you deal with emergencies, not run your life all day, every day. The problem is that cortisol competes with and blocks other hormones. When cortisol stays high, the body reduces production of testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. It's not because the body is broken, it's because it's prioritizing survival over everything else. This is why people under long-term stress often feel flat, tired, and less motivated. In men, this can show up as reduced drive, lower strength, and slower recovery. In women, it can show up as mood changes, fatigue, irregular cycles, or discomfort. These aren't separate issues, they're different expressions of the same underlying imbalance. Now let's talk about sleep, because sleep is where hormone repair actually happens. Many people underestimate how powerful sleep really is. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone and resets key hormone pathways. If sleep is short, fragmented, or too late at night, this process gets disrupted. Even 1 week of poor sleep can lower testosterone levels in men and interfere with estrogen and progesterone balance in women. Sleep deprivation also increases insulin resistance, which further disrupts hormones. When blood sugar is unstable, the body releases more cortisol to compensate. That creates a vicious cycle. Poor sleep raises cortisol. Cortisol disrupts hormones, and hormone imbalance makes it harder to sleep. Over time, this cycle becomes the new normal unless it's actively corrected. Another major factor is nutrient deficiency. Hormones are not created out of thin air. They're built from raw materials, and if those materials are missing, production slows down. Zinc is a great example. Zinc is critical for testosterone production and hormone signaling. Low zinc can reduce hormone output and weaken the body's response to the hormones that are present. Magnesium is another key nutrient. Magnesium helps calm the nervous system, supports deep sleep, and plays a role in over 300 enzyme reactions, many of which are hormone-related. Low magnesium often shows up as poor sleep, muscle tension, anxiety, and fatigue. All of these directly affect hormone balance. Vitamin D is also essential. Despite its name, vitamin D functions more like a hormone than a vitamin. It influences immune function, mood, and hormone receptors throughout the body. Low vitamin D is extremely common, especially in people who spend most of their time indoors. When vitamin D is low, hormone signaling becomes less efficient, even if hormone levels look normal on paper. B vitamins are another overlooked piece. They support energy production, nerve function, and stress adaptation. When B vitamins are low, the body struggles to convert food into energy, which increases fatigue and rests. This again pushes cortisol higher and suppresses other hormones. Now let's connect this to diet. Highly processed foods create nutrient deficiencies even when calories are high. Someone can be eating a lot of food and still be malnourished. Refined carbohydrates and sugars spike insulin, increase inflammation, and deplete key minerals. Over time, this damages hormone receptors, meaning the body can't respond properly to its own hormones. Healthy fats are especially important for hormone production. Hormones are made from cholesterol and fatty acids. When someone avoids fats or consumes mostly damaged oils, hormone production suffers. This doesn't mean overeating unhealthy fats. It means choosing stable, natural fats that support hormone synthesis instead of interfering with it. Another factor is liver health. The liver is responsible for activating, deactivating, and recycling hormones. If the liver is overloaded with toxins, alcohol, or excess sugar, it can't do this job efficiently. This leads to hormone buildup in some cases and hormone deficiency in others. Supporting liver function through proper nutrition and reducing toxin exposure plays a huge role in restoring balance. Gut health also matters more than people realize. A significant portion of hormone regulation happens in the gut. An unhealthy gut can increase inflammation and interfere with estrogen metabolism in women and testosterone balance in men. Poor gut health also reduces nutrient absorption, making deficiencies worse even if the diet improves. One important point here is that hormone imbalance doesn't always mean hormones are low. Sometimes levels are normal, but the receptors aren't responding. Inflammation, stress, and nutrient deficiencies can all block receptor sensitivity. This means the solution isn't always adding hormones. Often, it's removing what's blocking their function, and not. Her issue is constant stimulation. Excess screen time, late-night light exposure, and irregular schedules disrupt circadian rhythms. Hormones follow a daily rhythm. When this rhythm is disrupted, hormone release becomes erratic. Melatonin, cortisol, and sex hormones all fall out of sync. Over time, this leads to fatigue, mood changes, and reduced resilience. The encouraging thing is that the body is designed to recover. When stress is reduced, sleep improves, and nutrients are restored, hormone balance often begins to normalize on its own. This doesn't happen overnight, but the body responds surprisingly well when given the right conditions. This is why focusing only on symptoms rarely works long-term. If someone ignores stress, sleeps poorly, and eats a nutrient-poor diet, no quick fix will restore balance permanently. But when those foundations are corrected, hormones often follow. So if you are dealing with signs of imbalance, don't blame age or genetics right away. Look at stress levels, sleep quality, nutrient intake, and daily habits. Hormones reflect how well the body is being supported. Fix the support system, and hormone balance often becomes the natural result. When people think about weakness or reduced responsiveness, they often assume it's purely a hormone issue. But in reality, blood flow and nerve signaling are just as important, and sometimes even more important. You can have decent hormone levels, but if circulation is poor or nerves aren't communicating properly, the body simply can't respond the way it's designed to. This is where insulin resistance, inflammation, and vascular health come into play. Let's start with blood flow. Every tissue in the body depends on healthy circulation to deliver oxygen and nutrients and to remove waste. When blood vessels are flexible and responsive, everything works smoothly. But when vessels become stiff, inflame, or damaged, flow becomes restricted. This doesn't usually happen suddenly. It's a slow process that develops over years of poor metabolic health. One of the biggest drivers of poor circulation today is insulin resistance. This happens when cells stop responding properly to insulin, forcing the body to produce more of it. High insulin levels damage the lining of blood vessels known as the endothelium. This lining plays a critical role in releasing nitric oxide, a compound that allows blood vessels to relax and expand. When nitric oxide production drops, circulation becomes limited. This reduced circulation affects men and women differently, but the root cause is the same. In men, reduced blood flow can mean slower response and reduced endurance. In women, it can mean discomfort, reduced sensation, or delayed response. These are not isolated problems. They are signs of compromised vascular health. Blood sugar swings also play a role. When blood sugar rises rapidly and then crashes, it stresses the nervous system and increases inflammation. Over time, this damages small blood vessels, especially in areas that depend on fine circulation. The body then compensates by diverting blood to more vital organs, further reducing flow where it's needed for normal function. Now let's talk about inflammation, because inflammation is like rust inside the body. Chronic inflammation damages both blood vessels and nerves. It makes vessels less flexible and more prone to constriction. It also interferes with nerve signaling by damaging the protective coating around nerves. This slows communication between the brain and the body. Inflammation often comes from dietary sources. Excess sugar, refined carbohydrates, and industrial seed oils promote inflammatory pathways. Food sensitivities and poor gut health also contribute. When the gut lining is compromised, inflammatory compounds enter the bloodstream, creating widespread low-grade inflammation that affects circulation and nerve health. Another major contributor is oxidative stress. This occurs when the body produces more free radicals than it can neutralize. High blood sugar, smoking, environmental toxins, and chronic stress all increase oxidative stress. Free radicals damage blood vessel walls and reduce nitric oxide availability, further limiting blood flow. Nerve signaling is equally important. Nerves control timing, coordination, and responsiveness. If nerve communication is impaired, the body's responses become slower and weaker. One of the most common causes of nerve dysfunction is poor blood sugar control. Elevated glucose damages nerves over time, a process that begins long before serious symptoms appear. Nutrient deficiencies also play a role in nerve health. B vitamins, especially B1, B6, and B12, are essential for nerve repair and signaling. Magnesium supports nerve relaxation and proper firing. When these nutrients are low, nerves become irritated, sluggish, or overly sensitive. This disrupts normal communication and response. Another overlooked factor is sedentary behavior. Movement stimulates circulation and nitric oxide production. When someone sits for long periods, blood flow slows, especially in the lower body. Over time, this reduces vascular responsiveness. Regular movement doesn't just improve fitness, it keeps blood vessels responsive and nerves engaged. Stress again plays a role here. Chronic stress keeps blood vessels in a constricted state. The body stays in fight or flight mode, prioritizing immediate survival over long-term function. This reduces blood flow to areas not considered essential in an emergency. Over time, this becomes a chronic pattern unless stress is actively reduced. Let's also talk about aging, because aging itself is not the root cause. Aging simply reflects the accumulation of metabolic stress, inflammation, and poor circulation over time. People who maintain good blood sugar control, reduce inflammation, and support vascular health often retain much better function as they age. Sleep is another important piece. During deep sleep, blood vessels repair themselves and nerves recover. Poor sleep increases inflammation and worsens insulin resistance. It also reduces growth hormone release, which is critical for tissue repair. Without adequate sleep, the body can't maintain healthy circulation or nerve function. Hydration is often overlooked as well. Blood volume and viscosity depend on proper hydration. Even mild dehydration thickens the blood, making circulation less efficient. Over time, this increases strain on blood vessels and reduces nutrient delivery. The good news is that blood vessels and nerves are highly responsive to lifestyle changes, improving blood sugar control, reducing inflammatory foods, supporting nutrient intake, managing stress, and increasing daily movement can significantly improve circulation and nerve signaling. These changes don't just improve one area, they improve overall health. This is why focusing only on one factor rarely works. You can't fix circulation without addressing blood sugar. You can't support nerves without reducing inflammation. And you can't restore responsiveness without calming the nervous system. When these systems are supported together, the body often responds naturally. Blood flow improves, nerve signaling becomes clearer, and strength and responsiveness return as part of improved metabolic health. It's not about forcing the body to perform, it's about removing the obstacles that have been quietly interfering for years. So if weakness or reduced responsiveness is an issue, look beyond hormones alone. Look at circulation, inflammation, and blood sugar. When these foundations are restored, the body often regains function in a way that feels natural and sustainable. Chronic fatigue and nervous system overload are two of the most underestimated reasons the body shuts down normal repair, recovery, and natural drive. Most people don't connect constant tiredness or mental overload with deeper physical weakness, but the connection is very real. When the body is exhausted and overstimulated, it shifts into survival mode, and survival mode always overrides long-term health. Let's start with fatigue itself. Fatigue isn't just feeling sleepy. It's a state where the body's energy reserves are depleted at a cellular level. Every cell runs on energy produced by tiny structures called mitochondria. When these mitochondria are stressed by poor nutrition, lack of sleep, blood sugar swings, or chronic stress, energy production drops. When energy is low, the body becomes very selective about where it spends that energy. In survival mode, the body prioritizes breathing, heartbeat, brain function, and basic movement. Anything related to repair, regeneration, and higher level function gets pushed aside. This is why people with chronic fatigue often notice weakness, slow recovery, and reduced motivation. The body isn't broken, it's conserving resources. The nervous system plays a central role here. There are two main branches of the autonomic nervous system. One is responsible for action, alertness, and stress response. The other is responsible for relaxation, digestion, repair, and recovery. For the body to heal and restore itself, it must spend enough time in the recovery state. The problem is that modern life keeps people stuck in the stress state almost all the time. Constant notifications, pressure, deadlines, financial worries, lack of downtime, and even excessive news consumption keep the nervous system on high alert. This isn't how the body was designed to operate. Over time, this constant stimulation exhausts the nervous system. When the nervous system is overloaded, it sends signals to reduce non-essential functions. Repair slows down, hormone signaling weakens, circulation patterns change, even digestion becomes less efficient. This creates a chain reaction where nutrient absorption drops, inflammation rises, and energy production falls even further. Sleep is one of the first things affected by nervous system overload. Even if someone spends enough time in bed, their sleep may be light and unrefreshing. The brain doesn't fully shift into deep restorative stages. Without deep sleep, growth hormone release drops, tissue repair slows, and the nervous system doesn't reset. Over time, this leads to persistent exhaustion that no amount of caffeine can fix. Another major contributor to nervous system overload is unstable blood sugar. When blood sugar rises and falls rapidly, the body releases stress hormones to compensate. These hormones stimulate the nervous system, increasing alertness temporarily but draining energy reserves over time. This creates a pattern where someone feels wired but tired at the same time. Nutrient deficiencies also stress the nervous system. Magnesium, for example, is essential for calming nerve activity. When magnesium is low, nerves fire too easily, leading to tension, poor sleep, and heightened stress response. B vitamins are needed to convert food into usable energy and support nerve communication. Without them, fatigue deepens and stress tolerance drops. Another overlooked factor is breathing. Shallow, rapid breathing signals danger to the brain. Many people breathe this way all day without realizing it. This keeps the nervous system activated and prevents full relaxation. Over time, this breathing pattern contributes to fatigue, tension, and reduced recovery. Physical overtraining can also contribute. Exercise is beneficial, but too much intense training without adequate recovery stresses the nervous system. Instead of building strength, the body breaks down. Signs of this include persistent soreness, declining performance, poor sleep, and irritability. The body needs balance, not constant pressure. Emotional stress is just as important. Unresolved emotional strain keeps the nervous system activated even during rest. The body doesn't distinguish between physical and emotional stress. Both trigger the same stress pathways. Over time, this constant activation drains energy and suppresses repair. One of the most important things to understand is that recovery is an active process. It's not just the absence of activity. The body needs signals that it's safe to relax and rebuild. These signals come from consistent routines, adequate sleep, proper nutrition, gentle movement, and periods of true rest without stimulation. This is why quick fixes often fail. You can stimulate the body temporarily, but stimulation is not recovery. Caffeine, energy drinks, and constant motivation push the nervous system harder without replenishing it. Eventually, the body pushes back by lowering energy output even further. The good news is that the nervous system is adaptable. When stress is reduced and recovery is prioritized, the body begins to shift out of survival mode. Sleep deepens, energy production improves, hormone signaling becomes more efficient, repair processes restart. Small changes can have a big impact. Going to bed earlier and keeping a consistent sleep schedule helps reset circadian rhythms. Reducing screen exposure at night calms the nervous system. Stabilizing blood sugar through balanced meals reduces stress hormone spikes. Gentle daily movement improves circulation without overwhelming the system. Learning to slow down is not weakness. It's a strategy for restoration. The body needs periods of low stimulation to rebuild strength. When these periods are missing, fatigue becomes chronic and function declines. Over time, when the nervous system is supported instead of constantly pushed, the body regains resilience. Energy returns. Recovery improves. Natural drive and strength often come back as a side effect of better balance, not force. So if someone feels constantly drained, overwhelmed, or stuck, the answer isn't always to try harder. Often it's to do less of what's draining the system and more of what restores it. When the nervous system feels safe and supported, the body can finally shift out of survival mode and back into repair, recovery, and long-term health.